Fly between Bangkok and Singapore, a distance of just 880 miles, and you'll likely board an Airbus A350 or Boeing 787. The cabin features business class seats, premium economy with generous legroom, and service standards that rival intercontinental flights. Now, fly between London and Madrid, roughly the same distance, and you'll squeeze into a narrow-body A320 family aircraft. The business class seat is identical to economy, just with the middle seat blocked. The meal is a sandwich in a box. But here's what makes no sense. Paris, London, Frankfurt, Madrid, Amsterdam. These cities represent some of the wealthiest, most business travel-intensive markets on Earth. Yet, European airlines have collectively decided that premium products on intra-Europe routes are not worth it. The numbers are stark. On a typical day in Southeast Asia, you'll find widebody aircraft operating dozens of flights under 1,000 miles. Singapore to Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong to Taipei, Bangkok to Ho Chi Minh City, just some of the routes with widebody flights. In Europe, you can count the regular widebody services between major cities on 2 hands, perhaps even 1. This isn't about geography or distance, it's about a fundamental strategic choice that European airlines made. A choice that has left European business travelers with some of the worst premium products in the developed world. To understand why Europe abandoned widebodies on short-haul routes, we need to examine the economic revolution that transformed the continent's aviation industry. When Ryanair and EasyJet pioneered the low-cost carrier model in Europe, they didn't just create a new market segment, they fundamentally rewired how European airlines think about efficiency. The low-cost model depends on one critical principle: fleet simplicity. Ryanair operates exclusively Boeing 737s. EasyJet flies only Airbus A320 family aircraft. This isn't coincidence, it's calculated strategy. A single aircraft type means pilots can fly any aircraft in the fleet without much training. Maintenance crews master one set of systems. Spare parts inventory shrinks dramatically. Ground handling procedures become standardized. The cost savings compound across thousands of flights, millions per year. Legacy carriers watch this transformation with alarm. Air France, Lufthansa, and British Airways couldn't match low-cost fares on short-haul routes. Their response? It was to slash their costs. Over 2 decades, European legacy carriers systematically purged complexity from their short-haul operations. Widebodies retreated to long-haul routes where their capacity made economic sense. The math seemed irrefutable. Why operate a 300-seat A330 between Frankfurt and London when 2 180-seat A320s could serve the same passengers with double the frequency and operational flexibility? Frequency became the mantra. More departures meant more schedule options for passengers, more slots captured at congested airports, more revenue opportunities per day. Widebodies became victims of this frequency obsession. The financial case against intra-Europe widebodies appears overwhelming when examined closely. Widebody aircraft, like the 787 or the A350, are 2 to 3 times more expensive than a narrowbody. The capital cost differential alone demands justification through either higher yields or significantly more passengers per flight. On shorter European routes, neither condition reliably holds. Operating costs compound the capital problem. Widebodies burn substantially more fuel per flight hour. Even accounting for more passengers, the fuel cost per seat mile often exceeds narrowbody alternatives on sectors under 1,000 miles. Maintenance complexity adds another layer. Engine overhauls cost millions more. Component inventories expand exponentially. Then there's crew economics. Widebody pilots earn significantly more than their narrowbody counterparts. These aircraft require additional cabin crew to meet safety regulations. On a 2-hour flight, these crew costs don't scale with revenue the way they do on 12-hour intercontinental sectors. Turnaround times present perhaps the most underappreciated disadvantage. A narrowbody can realistically turn at a gate in 25 to 40 minutes. Widebodies? They need at least 45 minutes, often longer. On routes with multiple daily frequencies, those extra minutes compound into fewer revenue flights per aircraft over a longer period. For airlines optimizing asset utilization, widebodies on short routes represent mathematical irrationality. Europe's most valuable airports operate under slot constraints that fundamentally alter airline strategy. London Heathrow allocates approximately 480,000 annual slots among competing carriers. Demand exceeds supply by orders of magnitude. Slots have traded for millions of dollars each. At slot-constrained airports, airlines face a choice: maximize passengers per slot or maximize frequency per route. European carriers have overwhelmingly chosen frequency. A narrowbody operating 5 daily frequencies between Heathrow and Frankfurt captures business travelers who need flexible scheduling. Each departure represents a slot secured, a competitive position defended. One widebody operating the same route might carry equivalent daily passengers, but offers only 2 or 3 departures. Business travelers defect to competitors offering more convenient schedules. The slot economics create a paradox. Widebodies carry more passengers per slot, theoretically maximizing scarce capacity. But airlines value schedule flexibility and competitive positioning over pure capacity optimization. Paris-Charles de Gaulle, Amsterdam Schiphol, Frankfurt. The same logic applies across Europe's major hub airports. Slots are too valuable to surrender for capacity that could be achieved through frequency instead. Asia's approach to regional aviation inverts nearly every European assumption. Singapore Airlines operates widebodies on routes to Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Jakarta, and other destinations under 1,500 miles. Cathay Pacific deploys A350s between Hong Kong and Bangkok, Manila, and other cities. These aren't anomalies, they're deliberately strategic choices reflecting fundamentally different market conditions. Singapore Airlines and Cathay Pacific built global reputations on premium service. Their business travelers expect proper business class seats, quality food, and attentive service regardless of flight duration. The competitive dynamics differ dramatically. Airport slots, while constrained at some hubs, don't drive strategy the way they do in Europe. Cultural factors matter too. Asian business travel culture treats premium service as essential, not optional. Companies purchasing tickets expect and pay for superior products. Price sensitivity, while present, doesn't dominate purchasing decisions the way it does in European corporate travel programs. The result? Asian carriers can charge premium prices for premium products on short-haul routes. European carriers cannot. Despite the overwhelming economics favoring narrowbodies, a handful of European widebody services persist. Understanding why reveals the narrow conditions under which widebodies make sense. Finnair represents the most aggressive widebody deployer in intra-Europe markets. The Finnish carrier operates A350s and A330s on routes from Helsinki to Amsterdam, Brussels, London Heathrow, and Munich. In July 2026, Finnair has scheduled 35 weekly widebody services within Europe, 15 more than in July 2025. The explanation involves strategic necessity rather than passenger demand. Finnair's long-haul network to Asia suffered catastrophic disruption when Russian airspace closed following the Ukraine invasion, which eliminated the carrier's competitive advantage. Helsinki's geographic position had allowed Finnair to offer the shortest flight times between Europe and Asia for decades. That advantage evaporated overnight. With Asia flying dramatically reduced, Finnair faced a different problem: keeping crews current. Pilots must complete minimum flying hours to maintain their type ratings. With fewer long-haul flights available, Finnair redeployed widebodies to European routes, simply to keep pilots legally qualified. The economics are secondary. Finnair needs those crews ready when Asia routes eventually recover. Widebody intra-Europe flying is the cost of maintaining that strategic option. Iberia operates Airbus A330s and A350s between Madrid and London Heathrow several times a week. The primary justification isn't just passenger demand, it's also cargo. The Madrid-London route generates substantial belly freight demand. Time-sensitive goods flow between these commercial capitals constantly. A widebody's cargo hold generates revenue that narrowbodies simply cannot match. Both Iberia and British Airways are part of the International Airlines Group, IAG, and have extensive codeshare agreements. British Airways itself will deploy 777s on the same London-Madrid route daily this summer season. Widebody equipment cycling through London facilitates network connections and fleet positioning that benefit the broader group. Air Europa offers another Spanish example, deploying Boeing 787 Dreamliners on domestic and European routes from Madrid. The carrier operates 787s between Madrid and Barcelona up to twice daily, with widebody services to Amsterdam, Gran Canaria, and Tenerife. These deployments largely reflect fleet utilization rather than route-specific demand. More than half of Air Europa's fleet is comprised of widebodies, and rather than leaving aircraft idle between long-haul rotations, it slots them into high-frequency domestic and European routes. Aer Lingus takes a seasonal approach, deploying A330 widebodies on leisure routes from Dublin to destinations like Faro and Malaga during the summer season. These aren't year-round commitments, they're capacity solutions for peak holiday demand, when passenger volumes on sun routes justify the larger aircraft. TAP Air Portugal will deploy A330s on select routes from Lisbon this summer, including widebody services to Funchal in Madeira and occasional flights to Azores. Lufthansa has had curious service. Boeing 787s flying between Frankfurt and Munich roughly 6 times weekly in 2025, up to 9 times per week from September onward. This 300-mile route seems absurd for a widebody aircraft. Some of the most interesting intra-Europe widebody services come from carriers based thousands of miles away, operating under what are known as Fifth Freedom traffic rights. Fifth Freedom traffic allows airlines to carry passengers between 2 foreign countries as part of a flight originating in their home nation. These carriers aren't flying within Europe because the routes demand widebodies. They're generating incremental revenue from aircraft that need to be positioned between long-haul flights anyway. Singapore Airlines operates an A350 between Milan and Barcelona up to 3 times a week. The carrier flies Singapore to Milan, then Milan to Barcelona, then Barcelona back to Milan, and then back to Singapore. The Milan-Barcelona segment generates revenue from what would otherwise be a position leg. Singapore Airlines also has direct Singapore to Barcelona flights, operating twice per week. Ethiopian Airlines represents one of the most prolific Fifth Freedom operators in European skies. The carrier deploys Boeing 787s on multiple intra-Europe segments, connecting its long-haul network. Stockholm to Oslo runs daily. Geneva to Manchester operates 4 times per week. Milan to Zurich flies 5 times weekly. Copenhagen to Vienna operates 4 times a week. Each of these represents a stopover leg on a longer routing from or to Addis Ababa. Emirates operates a Boeing 777 daily between Larnaca and Malta, another Fifth Freedom segment carved out of its long-haul network. European carriers themselves rarely offer comparable products on the same routes. Turkish Airlines deserves separate mention because it operates on a scale that dwarfs every other carrier flying widebodies within Europe, yet its situation is fundamentally different from Fifth Freedom operators. Istanbul straddles Europe and Asia, and Turkish Airlines isn't exercising Fifth Freedom rights when it flies to European cities. It's operating standard international services from its own hub. But the sheer volume is remarkable. Turkish Airlines deploys A330s, A350s, 787s, and 777s to Amsterdam, Athens, Barcelona, Berlin, Dusseldorf, Frankfurt, Hamburg, London Heathrow, Madrid, Manchester, Milan, Munich, Paris, Rome, Stockholm, Vienna, Warsaw, and more European destinations. The carrier's aggressive widebody deployment reflects both demand and strategy. Istanbul has become one of the world's busiest connecting hubs, funneling passengers between Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Widebody aircraft on European routes feed this connecting traffic, while offering a premium product that European legacy carriers don't match on comparable distances. The absence of widebodies creates a cascading product quality problem for European aviation. Intra-Europe business class is a contradiction in terms. Airlines block the middle seat in a standard 3-abreast narrow-body row and call it business class. The seat pitch remains economy standard. The seat itself remains economy standard. The product differentiation consists of priority boarding and marginally better catering. The actual flying experience differs minimally from economy. Asian carriers offering on regional routes makes European business class appear farcical by comparison. A passenger flying Singapore to Bangkok enjoys hours of potential productivity or rest in a fully flat bed. A passenger flying London to Madrid sits in a cramped seat for 2 hours while paying premium prices. This product deficit extends beyond comfort to competitive positioning. When connecting through Dubai or Doha instead of Frankfurt or Paris means a dramatically superior travel experience, European hubs lose corporate accounts to Middle Eastern competitors. The scarcity of intra-Europe widebody flights reveals uncomfortable truths about European aviation's strategic choices. European carriers prioritized cost competition over product differentiation. They optimized for frequency over experience. They accepted mediocre business class products as the price of operational efficiency. These choices made rational sense given competitive pressures from low-cost carriers and Middle Eastern hub competitors, but they created a self-reinforcing trap. European business travelers learned to expect poor intra-Europe products, corporate travel policies optimized for price rather than quality, premium demands that might have justified widebody investments simply never materialized because carriers never offered premium products worth purchasing. Asian carriers made different choices. They invested in product quality regardless of route length. They charged premium prices and delivered premium experiences. They cultivated customers willing to pay for superior service. None of the European carriers operate widebodies because European passenger demand justifies premium products. In an industry where customer experience increasingly determines competitive success, Europe's widebody deficit represents more than operational efficiency. It represents a fundamental strategic vulnerability that Middle Eastern and Asian competitors exploit relentlessly. The shortage of intra-European widebody flights isn't a mystery, it's a choice. And European travelers pay the price every single day. Hey, before you go, the YouTube algorithm thinks you're going to like this video next, so why not check it out?